How pleased are you with what you delivered?
I feel like I controlled it well. Used the pace when I needed to, saved when I needed to, and obviously the ending was unfortunate for Lando. But yeah, I felt like I had a really good weekend in the sessions where it mattered. So it took a while to get there, but ultimately leaving very happy.
Ever watched someone's championship hopes evaporate in a cloud of smoke and thought, that's poetic? Welcome to Zandvoort. Today we dive into how Lando Norris went from second-place saint to sandy beach philosopher, while Oscar Piastri strolled to a seemingly serene clinic called the Dutch GP. Ready? Let's rocket through this chaos.
In third place and taking his first podium in Formula One, Isaac Hadjar. In second place, Max Verstappen. And taking the 9th win of his F1 career and his 7th of this 2025 campaign, our winner, Oscar Piastri. Oscar, very well done. You were never headed in what was a tricky race, and you got a huge haul of points to boot over your teammate as well. Can you start just by summing it all up for us?
Yep, I've got lollies stuck in my teeth now. So, but anyway, it's already the best press conference ever. We've got food, so it was a really good race. Felt like I was in control the whole time. Obviously the restarts were are always tough moments to get right, but I felt in control. Obviously the ending was unfortunate for Lando and the team to not have a 1-2 when I think we really deserved it, but from my side, very proud of the weekend we put together, being quick when it mattered, so very happy.
Piastri's pole to flag perfection, the Grand Slam moment. Oscar Piastri didn't just win the Dutch Grand Prix, he owned it. From the second those red lights went out, he turned Zandvoort into his personal playground. Pole position, check. Fastest lap, check. Leading every single lap like he was playing F1 Manager on easy mode, double check. If you were writing the definition of textbook win, you'd just paste a picture of Piastri holding that trophy with the caption, "Some assembly required. Nope, already assembled." This wasn't one of those scrappy, messy, elbows-out victories where the winner just survives the chaos. Oh no. Piastri looked like he was sipping a cappuccino while chaos brewed behind him. 3 safety cars, a half-dozen crashes, light rain trying to gate-crash the party. He never flinched. While other drivers were auditioning for fast and furious Zandvoort drift, Piastri kept it smoother than elevator jazz. And here's the scary part. This is his 7th win in just 13 races this season. That's more than a hot streak. That's full-blown dictatorship energy. He's now got a 34-point lead in the championship, which means Norris and the rest of the field basically need divine intervention, or at least an FIA plot twist, to stop him. What Piastri showed at Zandvoort is the kind of composure champions are built on. No overdriving, no panic, no flashy mistakes. Just a calm execution that made everyone else look like they were competing for second place in a game he'd already finished. But if Piastri was ice-cold perfection, Norris was the guy sweating bullets in a sauna. Let's see how his day unraveled. Norris gets squeezed on lap 1, but rambles back. If you blinked at lights out, you probably missed the Dutch Max attack, because by the time the cars hit turn 3, Max Verstappen did what Max Verstappen does, squeeze first, ask questions never. He came flying up the inside like he had a fast pass ticket at a theme park, muscling Norris out of second place with a move so aggressive it should have come with a warning label. Now most drivers would have folded under that kind of pressure, back off, settle in, and pray their race engineer talks them through the trauma. But Lando Norris? Nah, he wasn't having it. Within just a few laps, he clawed that P2 spot back, dusted himself off, and got back in Oscar Piastri's mirrors like the loyal but slightly annoying wingman he's been all season. Here's where it gets interesting. Norris actually looked sharp after that early scuffle. His pace was strong, his lines were tight, and for a while it looked like McLaren had a 1-2 in the bag. He was close enough to Oscar to make the pit wall sweat, and every so often you could feel the tension. Like, is Norris actually gonna push for the lead here? Or is he just biding his time, waiting for Piastri to blink. But in classic Formula One fashion, the Dutch circuit wasn't going to let him cruise. Between the safety cars, the damp track, and Verstappen constantly looming like the final boss of a video game, Norris had zero breathing room. Every time he found rhythm, another spanner hit the works. Still, give the man credit. He bounced back from that turn 3 mugging with the kind of grit you expect from a title contender. At least until, well, the oil leak turned his comeback story into a tragedy. And speaking of tragedy, what started as smoke in the cockpit ended up as the death knell for Norris's championship hopes. Let's talk about the oil leak heartbreak.
What do you make of the rumour and speculation that Oscar had been quite crafty? I mean, there's the old Juan Manuel Fangio thesis that what you want to do is win a race extracting the least tax and toll out of yourself and the car, and that towards the end of the final stint that Oscar Piastri was being quite deliberate and doing a Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg Abu Dhabi 2016 and almost backing Lando up with a view to induce, if there were a reliability issue to be had there, to kind of bring it about. Fact or fiction, Peter?
Well, fact in the sense that he was trying to win at the slowest possible pace, which any racing driver worth his salt does anyway. And nothing new there, nothing dramatic. He did it extremely well. So can't take that away from him. And yeah, why wouldn't you do that? You never ever want to overstrain the car unless you have to. And the hope always, from his point of view, I guess, was that Lando would make some sort of mistake in trying to close the gaps periodically or run wide or do something. But I think it's a big ask to believe that Lando's oil line issue, oil pressure issue, whatever it was caused maybe by going over the curbs too much or something, because Formula One cars should be built to sustain that sort of treatment, certainly McLaren's, and Lando's pretty good in that area. So I don't buy the second part of that. I just buy the first part, which is that Oscar did all what he should have done and was supposed to do, which was win at the slowest possible speed.
Oil leak plus smoke cloud = Norris's nightmare. Picture this. You're running in second place, comfortably ahead of Verstappen, shadowing your teammate Oscar Piastri for what looks like a routine McLaren 1-2. The pit wall is already drafting the Instagram caption, the champagne is chilling, and your championship hopes are still very much alive. Then, out of nowhere, sniff sniff, you smell smoke. Not from the crowd's barbecues, but from your own car. That's exactly what happened to Lando Norris with just 7 laps to go. The McLaren's Mercedes power unit coughed, wheezed, and finally gave up the ghost in a plume of oily smoke. 1 second, Norris was chasing down points. The next, he was stranded trackside, helmet still on, staring into the abyss of Zandvoort's sand dunes like a man reconsidering his life choices. It wasn't just a DNF, it was a gut punch, a Shakespearean twist, the kind of ending you wouldn't dare write into Netflix's Drive to Survive because it feels too on the nose. And here's why it really stings. Norris wasn't just losing a P2 finish, he was losing momentum. Coming into the Dutch GP, he'd won 3 of the last 4 races, riding a wave of confidence that made his title challenge look very real. A second place here would have kept him within striking distance of Piastri, maybe even turned Monza into a real showdown. Instead, he's now staring at a 34-point deficit. That's not a small gap, that's a canyon. In Formula One math, that's the difference between controlling your destiny and praying for your rival's engine to explode. And if this feels familiar, that's because it is. Remember Canada back in June? Norris tangled with his own teammate, yes, Piastri again, and ended up crashing out. This Dutch GP DNF was his second retirement of the season. One might call it bad luck. Others might call it a pattern. Either way, every point matters, and Norris just watched a fat stack of them evaporate into thin air. Meanwhile, McLaren team principal Andrea Stella shrugged and admitted they don't even know if the issue came from the car or the Mercedes engine itself. Translation: yeah, sorry Lando, but we're as clueless as you are. Comforting, right? The image of Norris, sitting alone, helmet on, head in hands, says more than any press conference ever could. This wasn't just a mechanical failure, it was a psychological haymaker. Because in a 2-horse title race, every DNF feels like losing 2 races. The one you didn't finish and the one your rival just won. While Norris was turning sand dunes into his therapy session, Oscar Piastri was turning laps into trophies. Let's see how the Aussie calmly cashed in on his teammate's misfortune.
It's what people always question. You can't be friends or whatever. Like, we're not best friends. I wouldn't say, we don't hang out all the time. Yeah. We just get along, but you don't have to sabotage one another. You don't need to treat each other like people you don't know or like idiots. Yeah. And we just have respect for one another, and that's it in the end of the day.
Oscar, after he got the pole, said, well, there's a couple of corners where I knew I wasn't really going to get Lando, so I just focused on what I could do really well. And that to me was an indication that there were some corners that he had identified where Lando was good, and he had worked at them. And as I said in the video, if you look at Oscar's pace through turn 9 in FP3, he was absolutely spot on Lando there. Now, he didn't do that in qualifying. The adrenaline got a little bit ahead of him, and his minimum speed was a little bit too high mid-corner turn 9. But it was nonetheless a corner that got his attention, and it certainly got his attention in the race, and he drove beautifully there in that section, that 8-9 section in the race. And that was, you could argue now, with the benefit of hindsight, that Lando shouldn't have been as quick as he was on Friday. He should have held a little bit back, because he's trying to beat his teammate. I've always said this, the biggest problem Lando's got is not how good he is and how confident he is. It is this guy that he's got to beat in the other car, this guy called Oscar Piastri, who's really, really good. He's good in that he's very simple and straightforward and unemotional in the way he goes about his racing, and that's a very difficult thing to beat.
Piastri cruises home, extends championship lead. When Norris's McLaren wheezed into early retirement, Piastri's job became simple. Don't screw up. And spoiler, he didn't. In fact, he made it look too easy. From pole position to the checkered flag, the Aussie barely broke a sweat. 3 safety cars, no problem. Rain clouds threatening a downpour, still unbothered. Rival chaos in the midfield, barely noticed. This wasn't a driver surviving the storm. This was a driver commanding it. Every restart saw him blast away like he had a turbo button nobody else was allowed to press. His radio calls were calm, his pace was relentless, and his tires looked fresher than a new pair of Jordans at lap 70. By the end, Piastri wasn't just winning a race, he was cementing his reputation as Formula One's new Iceman. 7 wins in 13 starts this season, a 34-point lead at the top, and more importantly, the body language of a guy who knows he's in control of the championship narrative. Norris has the flashes of brilliance, sure, but Piastri, he's got consistency, and consistency wins titles.
Another one? Yep.
Hi, Oliver Jensen, GMX.net. Oscar, is your personal relationship to Lando different to the last year because you know rivals, World Championship rivals, and some people are comparing you to Michael Schumacher because you make no mistakes, you are cool. What do you think about this comparison?
The relationship between Lando and I has not changed. I think if anything we know each other better now, and actually probably get on better than we did before we knew each other. And I mean, anytime you get mentioned in the same sentence as Michael Schumacher, that's a good thing. So I've got a hell of a long way to go to be talked about in the same air as someone like him, but I'll take it.
Thank you for that. Any more? If we have no more, we will leave it there. Gentlemen, very well done today.
If you've ever cheered for both a comeback and an underdog, hit that like button. Subscribe for more untamed F1 drama, and tell us, in this title fight, who's got the upper hand? Piastri's poise or Norris's potential? Drop it in the comments. And we'll break it down faster than a safety car restart.